Hi, it's Kai. Number 11, the Scylla. If you've never heard about the Scylla, don't worry about it. They actually did a pretty good job of keeping themselves hidden. They were once part of a royal society that had quite a long life. They were on the Korean peninsula between 57 BC and AD 935. But the catch is that while they lived there for a long time, few bodies from that time period have ever been discovered. Without those remains, we can only learn so much about them. However, in 2013, a key discovery was made that did change a little of the viewpoint on the nation. A woman was found in a place that was near the capital of the kingdom. Researchers could tell from her remains that she was a vegetarian, a very interesting thing at that time. But what was super mysterious about this woman was that her skull was elongated. Now, there are plenty of legends about those with elongated skulls throughout history and culture. Scylla was founded by the monarch Bak-Hachios. Legend held that he was hatched from a mysterious egg in the forest and married a queen born from the ribs of a dragon. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. However, what was a bit more tangible is that the Scylla culture developed into a centralized, hierarchical society with a wealthy, aristocratic class. Items from this high class have been found over the years, including a gold and garnet dagger to a cast iron Buddha and jade jewelry. If more remains are found about the Scylla, perhaps we'll find out more about what they're really like. Number 10, the Clovis. If you're into archaeology and the various things that have been found over the years in dig sites, then you'll be familiar with arrowheads. This was considered one of the first pieces of technology by the ancient people of the world. And when it came to the beings known as the Clovis, they apparently really liked arrowheads because they made a lot of them during their time in the world. The Clovis appears to be the first truly dominant and expansionist civilization in North America, but very little is known about them. What is known about them, though, is that they made and left a lot of their arrowheads for people to find. But here's the catch, because while they did leave these arrowheads, they didn't leave much else, like at all, to the extent that people have wondered what really happened to the Clovis people. Some think that, like many cultures, they met something that ended them, or they assimilated into other cultures they came across in their journey across North America. Unless more clues are found, we'll never know for sure. Number 9, the Indus. The Indus are another mysterious people, but for a different reason than most of the others. You see, their land stretched from the Indus River in modern-day Pakistan to the Arabian Sea and the Ganges in India. They were a major ancient urban culture. What's more, they lasted for almost 2,000 years, longer than most other cultures of the BC era. Their cities weren't just large, they featured all sorts of great technologies, including having their own sewer system. They had walls that allowed them to protect themselves easily, and more. They were even able to have their own dentistry, believe it. However, not unlike many cultures, despite their abundance of wealth and technology, they left without a trace. No one is exactly sure what happened to them, but the biggest theory is that the weather changed and dried up their lands. Because of that, they had to break apart so that they could move to better areas. If this is the case, that's a sad end to a society that had a lot going for them. Number 8, Nabta Playa. One might think that certain parts of the world wouldn't have the most advanced people for one reason or another, not the least of which is technology and access to specific resources. However, in Africa, in the Nubian Desert, there was a group of people known as the Nabta Playa. Their claim to fame was that they were ancient astronomers, over 11,000 years ago, and they were the first people to leave proof that they were studying and mapping the stars. The proof of this is literally in the sands of the desert. They left behind numerous markers that showcased how they tracked the stars and their movements, which likely laid the groundwork for other ancient civilizations to pick up the study. Of course, the flip side of this is that while they did leave these rock puzzles and maps for us to find and study and marvel at, they didn't leave much else. It's hard to know how they both survived in the harsh desert and yet found the time and ability to map out the stars in their own way. Many do agree, though, that more than likely the Nabta Playa were the ancestors to communities of the Nile. How do you think the Nabta Playa survived in the desert? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, Be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. The Shangshuidui. Residing in the Bronze Age of history, the Shangshuidui is a bit of a mystery in terms of who they really were. They resided in China in the Sichuan province, and their culture was not discovered artifact-wise until the 1920s. But by 1986, more artifacts had been found, including statues that were 8 feet tall. But while these artifacts were mesmerizing, they didn't exactly explain a lot about the Shangshuidui. We could tell that they were artists and sculptors based on what archaeologists have found, but anything other than that? Not so much. They were prolific makers of painted bronze and gold foil masks that some archaeologists believe may have represented gods or ancestors. The Shangshuidui site shows evidence of abandonment about 2,800 or 3,000 years ago, and another ancient city, Jinshua, that was discovered nearby shows evidence that perhaps the Shangshuidui moved there. The belief about why they went there is that a large earthquake shifted the land in the province and caused a river to divert. Due to that, they were forced to leave for more fertile grounds. Number 6. The Olmecs. Unlike some of the previous ancient civilizations that didn't leave that many clues behind, the Olmecs were a civilization that left a bunch of statues for us to find and learn from. They left behind giant statue heads, ones that have become a part of the media in their own way. The Olmecs occupied the same basic area as the mysterious Mayans, and much of their culture has been covered up in the literal sense by forests of the area that they lived in. The Olmecs spread their empire for over 900 years, establishing the pattern for future South American empires that would follow, before mysteriously vanishing around 300 BC. And that's where the mystery comes in, because not only did other cultures likely ruin various traces of them, we honestly don't know that much about what they did outside of their giant statue heads they left behind. What was it that they did besides carve these statues? What drove them off? How were they able to expand over 900 years? These questions and more are driving people to try and get answers. Number 5. The Noke. Let's head back to Africa to talk about a culture that is honestly not spoken of very often, the Noke. They lasted for about 1,300 years in what is now northern Nigeria. So unknown were these people that evidence of their civilization wasn't found again until a mining operation in 1943. Miners uncovered a terracotta head, hinting at a rich sculptural tradition. Since then, other elaborate terracotta sculptures have emerged, including depictions of people wearing fancy jewelry and carrying batons and flails. One of the biggest problems about finding more out about the Noke is timing and thievery, because when they were discovered in the mines, they were not examined in the proper way. Then, others decided to steal the findings. One such set was stolen from a Nigerian museum and then smuggled into the US. Thankfully, it was returned. But without proper examination of both the artifacts and where they were found, this little-known culture is going to remain that way, sadly. Number 4. The People of Punt. Yes, there are actually people that come from a place called Punt. But if you haven't heard of them, it's because they've been described as near mythical kind of people that resided around many parts of Africa during their time on the planet. This is where a twist comes in, because the people of Punt were known to have dealings with Egypt. Egyptian records speak of many trading expeditions to the land of Punt, but to this date, no modern archaeologist has been able to figure out exactly where that was. Which, if you think about it, is kind of odd, because you'd at least think that these Egyptian records would at least spell out a general location of where it was. But we all know how mysterious Egypt is. Furthermore, the records indicate that Punt was a land of incredible wealth and resources, including having the resources that rivaled Egypt itself. And therein lies another oddity, because while Egypt has records of trading with them, no one else does. What's more, despite being labeled as a land of riches and wealth, it doesn't appear to have gone to war with anyone or have records of invasions, which is kind of rare, right? Considering the history of Africa in regards to its tumultuous periods of wars, battles, empires, and more, you'd think that there would be more information about this nation, but there just isn't. Number 3, the Etruscans. One of the biggest reasons that the Etruscans became a society that many people don't know about is timing. They lived in northern Italy and then started to get absorbed by the Roman Republic, which later turned into the Roman Empire. That raised some problems because the Etruscans culture had a lot to offer, and yet now there's little left to be found. They were a culture that had its own unique writing system, and when it came to their tombs, they could rival the Egyptians in terms of luxury and lavishness. The Etruscans were a religious society that had all sorts of rituals and beliefs about their gods and how they were born into this world. As for the remains of these people, there are a few examples of their writing language, but not a lot. Furthermore, a building was found, and it was confirmed to be the largest building in the Mediterranean at its time. So clearly, these people knew how to build. It's sad that they weren't allowed to continue doing that. Number 2, the Bell-Beaker culture. Usually, when it comes to ancient cultures, you think of the remnants being large, lavish, and infinitely detailed. But sometimes, an ancient culture was known for something small and somewhat mundane. Such was the case with the Bell-Beaker culture. The Bell-Beakers lived 4,600 years ago in England and were probably primarily cow and sheep herders. But they were also known for the pottery that they left behind, including the beakers that were shaped like bells, hence the name of the civilization. What might intrigue you the most about them is the fact that they might have been the ground layers for Stonehenge. Others suggest that they have had a bigger influence on the history of Britain as a whole. It's just that we don't have the literal artifacts and history to back that up. What we do have are the Bell-Beakers. Number 1, the Mayans. If you were to ask people about the most mysterious civilization in history, most would tell you that the Mayans trumps them all, and for a wide variety of reasons. But most ironically of all, unlike many civilizations that have been lost, we actually have a lot of proof that the Mayans thrived. Between their ruins in Mexico and South America, we know plenty of locations they called home, or at the very least, cultivated. Furthermore, based on the size of their cities and how they were constructed, we can tell that they were incredibly advanced. However, about 1,000 years ago, they were gone, without a trace. Because they were so advanced and so populated in terms of their reach, and then suddenly and mysteriously, they were just gone. Why? What could have happened that led them to all straight up vanishing from their homes? There are theories that reach across every metric of the spectrum. Some say it was a disease that wiped them all out, which would work given the time period. But then, what happened to all the bodies of the Mayans? Some say they were wiped out by an opposing force. But why wouldn't their cities have been damaged or pillaged? The mystery continues. And even now, we're still finding ruins of ancient Mayan palaces and buildings, including a major complex being found in 2020 near the Gulf of Mexico. And it looks like there's still a lot to figure out. Thanks for watching. Have you heard of any of these mysterious ancient civilizations before? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.